The first thing is that rest heals us. I could go on so many different tangents, but the one thing that popped up to my in my head at first was the verse in Mark where it says, where Jesus has said that the Sabbath was made for man, not the Sabbath, not man for the Sabbath. And that was Mark 2, verse 27. Again, it says, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. Now, I love this story, right? Because it is when Jesus claps back at the different people when they start talking mess, right? So let me put together the scenario for you, right? The disciples are through there walking, they walking on a Sabbath, they're plucking grain because they're hungry, right? And then somebody sees them. Now, first of all, when you think about this story, now I'm actually thinking about it as I'm retelling it to y'all, and I'm like, who is out here watching them walk through a field? Why are y'all worried about this man walking through a field? How did y'all see this if you were actually Sabbathing yourself? That's the key thing, right? On a Sabbath day, there is nothing that should be happening. Like, nobody should be anywhere. Nobody else should be in the fields. Like, there shouldn't be anybody there. So how in the world did those people see Jesus and his disciples plucking grain? Okay? But that's not what we're talking about. So anyway, I just thought of that. So anyway, Jesus and his disciples are plucking grain, and they're like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to not work on the Sabbath. And Jesus is like, listen, David plucked some grain. The priest gave him bread. So if my people are hungry, they gonna eat, basically, is what he said. And then he said, listen, the Sabbath was made for man, not the other way around. And when I think about that verse and I think about those words, let's break that thing down, right? Like, he says that the Sabbath was made for man. So the day of rest was made for man to rest, not for man to make a bunch of rules, right? Because that's what that second half kind of indicates, right? Man was not made for man was not made for the Sabbath. Like, man was not made to create rules and to create all these things that you must do on the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath wasn't first, man was. So anyway, I was thinking about this, and when he says that the Sabbath was made for man, I was like, wait a minute. If God says that the Sabbath was made for man, then he must have put this in place for a reason. And it got me thinking, like, God made us, so he knows what we need. Have you ever thought that he knows that we need rest? That he knows that the body that he created us in needs to rest, needs to do nothing, so that they can continue, or we can continue in doing the work that he's called us to do, to continue to live, to continue to restore. Like, he knew that the body that he placed us in on this earth, now that it is so many different things that I can go down, but the main thing is that this body does not last, right? Like, this body is falling apart until the day we die. So if God made Sabbath for the man and said that you needed to rest, it's on purpose. And then just thinking about the science behind this, right? Now, I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm also a scientist. I'm a statistician. Love the body, love healthcare, all that kind of stuff, right? And there's research out there that talks about how, one, sleep. You know how much things sleep does for us? Sleep regulates our hormones. Sleep restores our muscles. Like, one of the big things that people say who are weightlifting and all that kind of stuff, they're always talking about that sleep is important to restore your muscles after you've worked it out, right? Like, it is for literally the restoration of our bodies. It's for the regulation of our hormones and the different functions of our body. Did you know that sleep actually helps us formulate memories? Like, our brain has a chance to connect all of the dots of life when we sleep. So God was saying, I know how I created you. I know you need to rest. So that Sabbath commandment was for you. That Sabbath commandment was not for man to make Sabbath perfect. It was so that you can get the rest that you need. So, it's to heal us.